Welcome to the Displaced Diehards podcast, recorded live at 2420 Studios in Owensboro, Kentucky. Check us out, as always, at www.displaceddiehards.com. Download the podcast also on iTunes, and check us out on Twitter at Diehards Podcast. Yippee-ki-yay.
Displaced Diehards.
Displaced Diehards.
I am a Displaced Diehard.
I'm a Displaced Diehard.
We are Displaced Diehards.
Welcome to episode number 11 of the Displaced Diehards NFL podcast. I'm your host, playing the part of Road Warrior Animal, Mr. Stephen A. Turner, alongside my tag team partner, playing the part of Road Warrior Hawk, Mr. Brandon Ward.
Oh, what a rush.
Behind the big board, twisting the knob and doing all the work, playing the part of Paul Ellering, Mr. Ill Bill Hardesty. And last but not least, over there in his wheelchair, Draws, a.k.a. Roger Turner, doing all the editing on our TV show on Time Warner Cable, channel number 72. This week, we'll be dive into all week number 5. We'll be giving you predictions to week 6, have a long list of awesome guests, and we'll be giving you our fantasy sits and starts for week number 5. But right now, tell them, Hawk.
Well, we're going to talk about some top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. As you know, the league is dominated by quarterback play, and we decided the best way to get a debate started here is list our top 5. And I'm going to start it off with my number 5, Phillip Rivers. He's got a 73.9 percentage on his pass completion, 1,199 yards passing, 11 TDs, and 2 interceptions on the season. I mean, he's had a resurgence this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got Rivers at number 4, so we're on the same page of getting Rivers in the top 5. I feel like he's playing some great ball. He would actually be an argument to be, tied for top 3 if it wasn't for blowing that week 1 game versus the Texans with the late interception. That's the only reason why I have him at 4. But I have Mr. Aaron Rodgers at number 5. So, obviously.
That's my number 4 quarterback,
so
we're
right there
on the
together.
same page.
We're on the same page, that's right.
Go ahead and give A-Rod stat. He's got 1,057 yards,
Yeah.
8 TDs, and 3 interceptions. And, of course, he's played one less game than the other guys.
That's right. And, obviously I hate him, so that's why he's number 5 instead of 4.
I'm surprised he made the list, honestly.
I'm taking Rivers at 4.
I thought Matt Castle would make it before that.
Well, Castle's honorable mention at this point. He's only got 1 week under his belt, or he probably would be in the top 5. But
number 6 and moving up.
I'll give him. You just go ahead and do this again in 2 weeks. But when we come off our bye, I'll have Castle in top 5 for sure.
I'm gonna go ahead and kick it to my number 3, Drew Brees. I mean, this guy last night on Monday Night Football just tore it up. 67% completions, 1,434 yards, 10 TDs, 4 INTs. I mean, he goes out there and he makes normal receivers, Pro Bowl receivers. Just look at Robert Meacham. You didn't hear from him when he was in San Diego, and he's already back in New Orleans catching touchdowns.
Yeah, I struggle with 3 because I originally had Brady at 3, and then I got to thinking about what he's doing with what he has there. It's not much on the receiver front. Welker gone, no tight ends there. I'm gonna have to go with what you said. I think I'm gonna have to go with Breeze at 3, and I'll put Brady up to 2 on my rankings because for that reason right there alone, that's what reason why he's ranked ahead of Breeze.
Well, my opinion might shock a lot of people, but I've got Peyton Manning at number 2. Of course, he's been tearing up the league this year. 75% completions, 1,470 yards, 16 TDs, no interceptions. But my number 1's Tom Brady because at the end of the day, he's 4-0 like Manning is. And look at the weapons that Tom Brady has compared to Peyton Manning. Tom Brady has receivers that I'm a diehard NFL fan, and I can't name more than 3 receivers on his team, and he's still 4-0.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, but I can't go wrong with 16 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. I mean, weapons, I understand he's got the weapons. He does definitely have the weapons for sure. He's probably got better weapons now than he's had in his entire career, but Manning is just dialed in at this point. He's playing some of the best football that I've ever witnessed being played. I
may be a little biased because he stomped my team out 52-20 this previous Sunday.
Yeah, it's kind of like my Aaron Rodgers deal, I guess.
Might also be because Tom Brady played at Michigan in college, but that's just pure speculation.
That's just I'm sure it's got nothing to do with that at all.
No, but I mean honestly, Tom Brady has nobody out there. The they brought in Amendola to replace Welker. He went down immediately. Gronk's not back yet. The two rookies they brought in, Tompkins and Dobson, they can't catch a cold. Whenever they should make the catch, they go and make it harder on themselves some way to try to make a Sports Center catch.
They jump or they
like
dive or something. Yeah,
but they're still getting it done.
Tompkins is starting to come along a little bit better than Dobson, but yeah.
The way I looked at it is, if Manning was on the Patriots, do I think they would be 4-0 still, and I don't think they would be. So that's
a good point.
And if Brady
that is
was
a great point.
And if Brady was on the Broncos, I think they'd obviously still be undefeated.
Yep.
But I don't see it like that if Manning was on the Patriots. That's why I got to go Tom Brady #1.
That's a great point. That is, I did not look at it that way. Yeah, Manning needs weapons around him to succeed, and like I said, he's got the best weapons. But the fact of the matter, I mean, he's just directing that talented offense at the line of scrimmage.
There was one play during the Eagles game last week where our defense actually got lucky and called a defense that he didn't like, and Manning immediately called timeout instead of wasting a down or audibling it and just picking up 2 yards. He wasted a timeout because he knew the defense that we had called they weren't prepared for. So I mean, he's an offensive coordinator at quarterback out there. It's ridiculous.
He is.
And while we're speaking of that game, we'll go ahead and get into our rundown of the action this week. We had Philly and Denver. Of course, I loved watching every second of that game.
Yeah, it was. I watched a little bit of it. I watched the first half of the game, and I thought that Philly hung in well to begin with.
I wish that's all I'd watched.
Yeah, but yeah, I had to work that night, so I did sleep during the second half of the game. When I woke up, the score was skewed greatly compared to what it was when I took my nap. But I thought the Eagles hung in well to begin with. You don't have the horses to compete. I don't know that anybody at this point in the league does.
Especially whenever our defense can't stop them. I mean, there was a time in the third quarter they scored 3 touchdowns on 3 consecutive 80-yard drives and never faced a third down.
Yeah, I heard that.
That's
they didn't
ridiculous.
Face a third down. Yeah, and I was complaining about that same thing in our game, just on a couple drives. And you got to force a team into third down to get them off the field on third down. So. It's just
hard to make them punt on second down.
That's right. If you can't force a third down, then you can't get them off the field.
That's what I've been saying all year. The only way that we stop teams is if they make a mistake and turn the ball over. It's hard to watch the defense in Philly. That just more and more blaring reason that we should have drafted defense instead of using #1 pick on.
Yeah, we were talking about that during the game
on offense. #2 pick on offense.
The tight ends that you guys have, I mean, they're good. I mean. They're already good, and then you draft Ertz in the second round. It's just overkill at that point, unless you're going to move one of those guys ahead of him for another pick or something.
Unless you're going to move Brent Selleck for a pick. I mean, you just signed James Casey to big money to bring him in. Clay Harbor would turn out to be a huge red zone target, which we struggle in, and then instead of getting a safety or a defensive back or a 3-4 linebacker like we need, we draft Zach Ertz, and it falls on Howie Roseman, our GM, and while I'm talking about it, let me just list the last 8 draft picks by Howie Roseman. These are the first and second round draft picks. These are the draft picks that NFL teams value so much they won't trade Pro Bowlers for. All right, these are the last 8 guys that he's picked. Brandon Graham, Nate Allen, Danny Watkins, Jaquan Jarrett, Fletcher Cox, Michael Kendricks, Lane Johnson, and Zach Ertz. There's not one of those guys making a significant impact on our team right now, and that's our
trouble.
last 8 top draft pick. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, Danny Watkins. I know you're big on him. You're a big Danny Watkins guy. He's kind of like Brandon Wheaton.
Yeah. They drafted him at 26. They're like, he's nasty. He's gonna be like Runyon. Yeah, he's nasty because he's facing 19-year-old kids in college, and he's a full-grown man.
That's right. Yeah, somebody's gonna have to be held accountable if they don't turn it around. If they don't turn it around, I mean, you're looking at the NFC East where at this point, an 8-8 team can win that division, in my opinion.
I mean, there's a silver lining. The last 3 opponents that the Eagles have played, their combined record was 10-2, and the next 8, it's 7-24. I mean, it's ridiculous because we played a lot of the NFC East coming up. So I mean, the next time that we play a team with a winning record is the Detroit Lions in December. So I mean, if we're gonna make a run at the East, it starts this week at the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, that division's wide open. I mean, Eagles can't get too down. I mean. At this point, I think Denver's way up ahead of anybody in the league, and then you go down a few more rungs, and you got Seattle, and New England maybe somewhere in that mix, and then after that, I mean,
the Saints are edging their way up there if their defense keeps playing.
I'm sorry, the Saints are up there for sure. The Saints are definitely up there. I apologize for that. they've definitely proved me wrong on the defensive side of the ball. I thought they would be much worse defensively.
Denver's looked like an unstoppable machine so far.
Machine.
I mean, until the weather changes, as long as the weather changes, the only thing that I think can save the rest of the AFC from Peyton Manning is the weather. He doesn't play well in cold weather or in bad weather. So, I mean, that's all you can hope for is on a Sunday you're playing Manning, it's raining or sleeting at game time.
You seen snowing and the wind's blowing real hard or something.
You seen the rain affect him in the week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens when it was raining the first half. He didn't throw it. I don't think he threw a touchdown in the first half.
That's the only time he looked bad is at the very beginning of that game.
And that was just light rain and good weather. Wait till it's snowing and cold and sleeting. That's the kind of weather you want to catch Peyton.
That is a silver lining for the rest of the NFL. If they want to look for something, maybe they can hope they get him on a bad weather day.
Yeah, other than that, I don't see a lot of hope.
No, not at all.
Speaking of not a lot of hope, it looked like there wasn't going to be a lot of hope in Cleveland, but the Brownies have turned it around behind Brian Hoyer, as we were calling him when he started his first week, Bobby Horrible. But his went on to prove us wrong there, and he's 2-0 as a starting quarterback as they beat the Cincinnati Bengals this past week in a shocker.
I'm telling you, it was a little bit of a shocker. I thought that Hoyer would fall off the face of the earth, and I'm glad that he didn't, to be honest. I'm glad that we weren't just terrible and got rolled by the Browns, and they actually have a competent quarterback in there, and He's got Gordon in there, and Cameron is a beast. I mean, he's coming along.
If you got Cameron in late rounds in your fantasy draft, you're winning right now.
Yeah, that's right. As a steal, wherever anybody got it, I'm sure he went probably, 8th, 9th, maybe later rounds than that even. So, but the Browns, I mean, hey, look out. I mean, at this point, they're 2-2. They beat the Bengals. And the Steelers are terrible, and the Ravens they're just right there in the middle of the pack. So
they're suddenly wide open in this division.
Let's not sleep on the Cleveland Browns. I had them in the playoffs to start the year. Now I might have been dead wrong on Brandon Weeden, which I was. I was dead wrong on Brandon Weeden, but they throw Hoyer in there, and he can take the place of Weeden. And look out! I mean, the Brownies can play some defense. Joe Hayden is the best cornerback in football at this point. The guy is a shutdown corner.
Yeah, you're number one. He just takes you right out of the game. You didn't hear much from A.J. Green in that game. I mean, he's been tearing up the league, and Joe Hayden just puts him on silent mode. He's the new Revis Island, in my opinion.
Yep. And they got the best left tackle in football, unless they start calling him for false start, which he does like 90% of the time.
It's easy to be the best tackle in football whenever you get a 0.5 second head start on everybody. I've never seen anything like that. I don't know why they weren't calling
either
him.
He's dialed into the snap count, or the guy jumps off sides every time. I mean, watch it for yourself.
My buddy Big Matt, he's an offensive lineman. He played college football offensive lineman, and even he said that he's been doing that his whole career, and nobody's ever picked up on it. So apparently it's something. If you're good at timing it, you can get away with it. But it looked like false start to me every time.
I agree. Yeah, and you flip it over to Cincinnati. I mean, you got to be disappointed if you're a Bengals fan. I mean, it looks like you're about to take the step, to be an elite football team, and you go to Cleveland, a game you should win.
Pittsburgh and the Ravens are finally ripe for the picking.
Right, and then you let Cleveland, take the spot. So it's like, Andy Dalton's not stepping into the forefront like and we've said that all along. It's going to come down to Dalton, basically to separate the Bengals from the pack, and he's not getting the job done.
No, I mean, and they brought in Giovanni Bernard to make some big plays, and he's made a few this season, but I think he's kind of been a letdown from where people were expecting him to be at this time of the year, and Mohamed Sanu hasn't really developed like I thought he was going to. I thought he was going to be a guy that would come in and work the slot and get 8 to 9 receptions for 100 yards pretty consistently in the games, and he's not showing up for him.
And they have tight end. I mean, they're tight end, double tight end set with, an A.J. Green on the outside. They have plenty of weapons there. I mean, to me, in this day and age, it all falls on the shoulders of the quarterback. And Dalton is that guy who's in his time. It's time for him to start showing. I mean, it's still early in the season. He still has time to get it going. But this is a game as a Bengals fan you really want. You really want to win, especially versus a division team that's kind of down. And
yeah, if you're expecting the Bengals to make that next step to be an elite team, this is the game they got to win. They got to go and take the stranglehold on that division and make sure that they're the dominant team in that division. That you don't want to let Cleveland get any confidence and get it rolling. I mean, Cleveland was trying to lose 2 weeks ago.
Before we get off this game, you don't want to. We haven't gave any credit to the coach of the Cleveland Browns, Francis, as we like to call him, Francis from Pee Wee's Big Adventure, Chizinski. The guy, his team was pretty much written off by everyone, and he's rallied that team around that. I guess that situation, to say, hey, nobody's giving you a chance.
He went like major league manager on them.
He sure did. They could trade everybody that we got. We're still gonna stick together.
Gonna win the whole effing thing.
The guy's running fake punts, fake field goal. That's all he kicked an onside kick. It didn't work out for him in this game, but. I mean, don't sleep on the Brownies. I'm telling you, they're right there to take the division for the picking.
He's probably got a picture of the Cleveland's GM's old lady up there. He's taking strips of off every time they win a game in Cleveland.
Somebody else who's celebrating Cleveland. They're celebrating a little bit too hard. It's Drunk Bernie. And this week we sent our correspondent, Ms. Kenny the Snake Stabler, out to try to get a word with Bernie after he had a little run-in with the law over the weekend.
Free Bernie.
This is Kenny the Snake Stabler, back again for the Displaced Diehards podcast, and I'm here at the lockup at the county jail, and I'm bailing out Drunk Bernie Kosar, everybody's favorite correspondent. Well, I got news for you, Bernie. I'm taking your spot, baby. I'm going to leave you in jail if you don't watch out. Drunk Bernie, what happened with the police?
This is Bernie Kosar for the Displaced Diehards podcast, and I've been drinking.
Bernie, what happened with the law, baby? Why are you in jail?
I shouldn't have been drinking. They caught me. I got pulled over. I said my ABCs, and then I couldn't stand on my foot.
You couldn't stand on your feet? What the hell's wrong with you? Why couldn't you stand on your feet?
Hey, you watch the game tape?
Handle your liquor?
Did you watch the game tape? Have you seen what my offensive line used to be like? Have you seen
Oh.
You know how many surgeries I've had on this foot? If he asked me to stand on my left foot, no problem. That's fine. But he kept telling me to stand on the right foot. I told him I had surgeries.
All right, now, Bernie, that being said, did you at least get to see your Brownies run roughshod over the Bengals?
Of course, man. I was out by 7:45. They don't even open the office until 8. You showed up at what $5, $45 the most to get me out of the drunk tank. I have lawyers. They'll get me off this DUI. No problem.
All right, now, there used to be one hell of a role model for the children in Cleveland. Not so much of your daughter, from what I hear, but anyway.
And there's absolutely no evidence that she ever slept with Marcus Allen.
That's what? It's ridiculous. Don't bring up that out now. You tried to bite my ass off, but anyway, in other words, give me some words for the kids at Cleveland. You're a role model, Bernie. Come on, get it together.
Always have a designated driver, and never do PCP you got from Aaron Hernandez while you were inside. I don't even know what you do with it. You smoke it? You kind of sprinkle it over the rocks of my scotch? That's the way to go. How you doing, Kenny? Why do they call you the Snake?
Why don't you go make some more bad real estate investments and quit hijacking my interview? You might have saw on SportsCenter this morning that I've won more NFL Monday Night Football games in a row than anybody, so don't try to start hijacking my interview here now, Drunk Bernie.
It was Hank Williams, wasn't it, Monday Night Football? It was Hank Williams. Was it Hank Williams the whole time for you?
This is ridiculous.
They got
that was before my time, baby.
They got that American Idol singing these days.
What are you talking about, Bernie?
I don't know.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I don't know. I need a drink. I don't care.
Bernie Kosar. You're never going to learn, baby. You're never going to learn. This is Kenny the Snake Sabler for the Displaced Diehards NFL podcast. Signing off, baby.
Wow, thank you, Kenny the Snake, the greatest interviewer in the game, in my opinion.
He is. He's
unbelievable. What about that Monday night record? If Drew Brees had that
man.
record, that's all we would have heard about for the last 7 years.
Drew Brees just invents his own record, so whatever.
The Snake breaks real ones.
That's right. The Snake creates epic records, and he talks about them 15 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later. Hell, I don't know how long it's been.
Speaking about records, there's a team that's been on the record for the last generation or so of sucking, the Dallas Cowboys.
I apologize.
They took on the
My Cowboys.
They took on the San Diego Superchargers, and the San Diego Superchargers got that win.
I predicted this. They would win this game.
As did I.
I predicted this. Now I know they're my Cowboys, but I still rode with the Chargers out of apology for writing their season off before it even started. Phillip Rivers is playing some great ball, as we touched on in the very beginning.
Antonio Gate has apparently found the fountain of youth, or went to a Switzerland's blood doctor and got his blood spun, because he looks like he's 25 now.
He's back. He is back. As far as Dallas goes, I mean, When the games they win, they give the ball to DeMarco Murray. The games they lose, he's a ghost. So, newsflash, Callahan, you might want to start handing the ball to him. I mean, it's that simple, really. I mean,
you wonder why we say Jason Garrett's a horrible head coach, because he can't figure out when you run the ball, you win. When you don't run the ball, you lose, and you keep not running the ball. But keep doing it. I'm begging you, keep doing it, Jason. Keep doing it.
You hit the nail on the head when you said that they got a shiny toy in Des Bryant. I watched some of the game, and my God, they beat a dead horse trying to throw the ball to him, and it's like, just hand the ball to be balanced. I mean, give Romo a chance here.
Dallas reminds me of Detroit last year, whenever all they did was just go to Calvin Johnson and they ignored their running back situation. And Dallas are going to end up like Detroit last year if they don't start identifying their run game a little more.
Another thing, you hit the nail on the head. You right before the season started, you called Claiborne a bust, and he got benched today for Scandrick. I mean, that's bad. You don't trade draft picks to move to the top of the draft, to draft a guy like Claiborne and then bench him. It's not good. That's the bad sign there for the cornerback.
Yeah, I love whenever they get busts in Dallas. So, I mean, of course, I'm cheering this on with every bit. Anthony Spencer, another guy that the Eagles actually traded to him in a draft day trade. They franchise tagged him, and he went out for the whole season right after they did that. So I'm loving the way that their draft picks are working out for them down there in Dallas. But go ahead to San Diego, because I can't stand talking about the fucking Cowboys anymore.
Yeah, really what it boils down to is Phillip Rivers is playing ball, and their defense is playing good enough to win games. I mean, Phillip Rivers is playing good at the quarterback position as anybody in the league. I kind of hoped he would suck a little bit, and they would decide to let him go, because I would pick him up
Minnesota next
year. Phillip
year.
Rivers in a heartbeat. But at this point, the guy is playing, top 3 or 4 quarterback, game style in the league.
Looks like the Phillip Rivers that had LaDainian Tomlinson and actual 25-year-old Antonio Gates on his team, playing like 2005 Phillip Rivers whenever Marty Schottenheimer was there.
You pointed it out a lot in the preseason of San Diego McCoy. I mean, he's found a way to make this offense work, and it's really showing. And to be honest with you, they blew a couple games.
They could very easily be 4-0.
They could very easily be undefeated, very easily. Rivers made that one bad decision in the Texans game that really cost them, and then they just kind of folded up their tent in that game. But they could be 4. They could really have 4 teams in the AFC West that are 4-0, really, if you look at it.
Yeah, that division has suddenly become the strongest in football. Everybody thought it was going to be the NFC West, and those teams kind of fallen off, and the AFC West is actually taking over. And like I said, Mike McCoy has came in and actually reeled in Phillip Rivers. He hasn't allowed him to go out there and be a Jay Cutler where he's just out there gunslinging and throwing into triple threat coverage anymore. And they don't even have a run game right now. If Rivers could get a little bit of a run game, but what they're using as a run game right now is screens with Danny Woodhead.
Yeah,
so
Danny Woodhead's a weapon.
If Danny Woodhead's on your fantasy football roster on any of the waivers still, or if you can pick him up in a trade for somebody light, they're going to be using Danny Woodhead all year.
Yeah, the Rivers made an unbelievable throw to Woodhead in the first quarter of that game. Woodhead made a great catch. San Diego is turning some heads. I mean, it's the NFL. Anything can happen, and everybody's so evenly matched. And if you get a quarterback playing as good as Phillip Rivers is, you always put yourself in a chance to win the game. But speaking of Cutler, you brought him up. Let's go on to the NFC North division battle with the Bears. They traveled up to Detroit and took an ass whooping. Yeah,
Chicago was the team turning heads for the first 3 weeks of the season, and cocky Jay Cutler actually checked in to let us know how great he was and why his Bears were 3-0, and then it all came crashing back down to reality this Sunday for OJ.
As soon as I started to put a little stock in the Bears, and then Jay Cutler showed up and decided to crap all over that party. But yeah, I mean, Cutler looked awful in this game. I mean, I don't know if necessarily it was all Cutler. His line looked terrible. He was constantly under pressure, but you just can't throw the ball up in the crowds and expect to be successful.
The thing I didn't like most about Cutler is what he hadn't been doing this year. Whenever he was in the pocket, he was carrying the ball with 2 hands so it wouldn't get knocked out. And then this game, he totally reverted back to his old ways.
I don't know what happened here.
And was just carrying it with 1 hand and lost the ball twice, got it stripped from him. So, I mean, if he wasn't doing the fundamental things there, I mean, that's just regression. That's just not paying attention very well in game planning through the week. I think they might have came in thinking they were gods. I predicted the Lions were going to come in because I thought Chicago was going to come in with a big head, and Jay Cutler definitely did.
Yeah, they've been playing like balanced football. They've been playing smart football. They haven't been turning the ball over, a whole lot. They've been playing solid D, and in this game they just looked like the Chicago Bears you kind of expected them to look like, kind of a mess.
Yeah, that's the Bears team I expected all season. I mean, I mean, they're still 3-1. There's no reason to start jumping off the ship just yet. I mean, you can always chalk it up just a bad game.
Yeah.
I mean, every quarterback has a bad game, and you hope Cutler can right the wrongs and at least start making up on the details. I mean, if he's throwing an interception or two, I mean, you got to live with that, because if you're going to get a quarterback that's going to throw the ball downfield, that's going to happen. But you can't have him back there just carrying the ball and not protecting it with one hand and getting it stripped twice.
Yeah,
those are worse than interceptions.
This game shows up, and it kind of shows me that the Bears are what their limit's going to be, and it's going to be probably a first round playoff team, and that's going to be about it. Because Cutler at some point is going to show up. I mean, he's going to show up and be the Cutler that he is, and it's the Cutler that was in this game. I mean, just imploding. And you got to give the Lions credit too. Their front four is playing great football on the defensive side of the ball, and their DBs are actually making a little bit of plays here and there. And then Reggie Bush is about as good as offseason pickup as you're going to find.
What this game showed me is that Reggie Bush makes the Detroit Lions a contender in the NFC. I mean, especially if he's running the ball. We all expected him to be able to catch the ball well out of the backfield in Detroit, but he's actually running an actual handoff running back in Detroit, and he's faring well. I mean, if they can get that consistency out of him, they're going to be tough to stop, because their defense, like you said, they get pressure with the front four, and if you can get pressure with the front four, that changes the league, because the league's passing, and if you can get pressure with just your front four and keep the other guys back there to defend the pass, you've got a step ahead on the offense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to buy into Detroit the same way that I've just bashed Chicago with Cutler turning the ball over. I mean, Detroit is a very sloppy football team. They're just very talented. They can overcome that at times. They played horribly against the Vikings, and they overcame it with just straight talent from Reggie Bush. And Stafford, I mean, one drive he might look terrible, and the next drive he might come out and be perfect.
Stafford is pretty close to Jay Cutler as far as consistency.
He is. Both these teams are very similar. Whereas the Bears have a little better defense, and Detroit has quite a bit more talented offense.
Yeah, I think that's what showed out. Is Detroit's offense was that much more dominant than Chicago's defense is over theirs.
Okay, you've definitely got to find a way to reel in Reggie Bush. It's going to get to the point where your number one guy to stop on the lines is going to have to be Reggie Bush. I mean,
that's when Megatron's.
That's when Calvin's going to take over. Yeah, you're going to have to watch that over the top. So
that's what Reggie Bush said whenever he was a free agent. He said he looked at the defensive schemes that teams had to play against Calvin Johnson, and he said he
clears out the.
He said his mouth was watering just looking at all the field that he had, all the open field.
I can only imagine, but they've never had that threat before. Defenses haven't had to honor Mike LaShore and Jock Bell and guys like that. I mean. You got a guy now in Reggie Bush who's just dynamic out of the backfield. You might as well say he's a wide receiver at the running back position, because I mean, at running back he is what he is. But out of the backfield, the guy is a weapon number one. I mean,
yeah, how Darren Sproles is being used in New Orleans is like how Reggie Bush is being used pretty consistently in Detroit. He's just running the ball a little bit better out of the backfield than Sproles can.
Both these teams are tied for first place. If Detroit can ratchet up the mistakes and just the stupid penalties and stuff like that, then yeah, Detroit is right there. Just like Chicago, they have their problems. They can ratchet up that offensive line, and Cutler can just hone it in. I mean, you don't have to go out there and sling it all over the field to be successful. Just hone it in a little bit. Both these teams have questions, but they both have potential to win the division there.
There's definitely one guy that's still confident in the Chicago Bears, and it's jaded Jay Cutler. And we're going to send it to him right now to get his thoughts on this game.
This is Jay Cutler here on the Displaced Diehards podcast. Now, people may think that I'm down this week because my Bears lost, but it's not my fault. I'm Jay Cutler, the best quarterback in the league. If you watched the game, you'd know my offensive line let me down. They let the whole team down. My wide receivers weren't out there doing their jobs. Have you ever tried to throw a ball to a half-ass wide receiver from South Carolina? That's right. I'm talking about you, Alshon Jeffrey. I put the ball up where only you could get it, but somehow you managed to deflect the ball to the defense. If something happens and the ball slips out of my hand, it's not my fault. The center didn't wipe the ball down before he snapped it to me. Did you see my defense on Sunday, giving up touchdowns to Matthew Stafford, a half-ass quarterback out of Georgia? I'm Jay Cutler. I'm twice the quarterback he is. This is ridiculous. I shouldn't even have to be talking about this loss. You know, last year, 90% of the time, it was Lovey's fault. And yeah, we won 3 games with Mark Trestman, but his game plan this week was horrible. How am I supposed to work with this crap? And Jay Cutler, I shouldn't even have to come to work until Sunday. I'm that damn good. I don't have to sit in meetings. I don't have to watch game film. I just win games. I go out there and I win. It's not my fault. Have you seen my wife, Kristen Cavallari? Millions of men want to be me, because I'm Jay Cutler, the best quarterback in the NFL. You think a loss like this is going to get me down? It doesn't get me down. I just go in the bathroom, I look in the mirror, and I say, damn, Jay, you're a hell of a man. Maybe the best quarterback to ever play this game. You're not going to let a loss to the Detroit Lions get you down. You're going to bounce back this week, go for 4 or 5 touchdowns, come home and have sex with your reality star wife, be the envy of the whole entire country. So I'm Jay Cutler. Until next time, no, Jay Cutler.
Thank you, Jay Cutler, the greatest quarterback in the game. And if you don't believe it, just ask him. He'll tell you
He'll
himself.
tell you all about it. He'll break down the game right for you.
We'll
Guess
move
it's Alshon Jeffrey's fault they lost that game.
We'll move it on to a quarterback who's definitely not the greatest in the world, Sling Blade, as I like to call him, Eli Manning. As his New York Giants took on the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Kansas City Chiefs, led by Fat Ass, gets the victory, 4-0 in Kansas City.
Man, just throwing them out there. Sling Blade just ain't getting it done in New York. At this
Sling
point.
Blade is not slinging right.
Phew, I'm telling you, that they're just combobulated in New York, and unlike anything I've ever seen from a Tom Coughlin-led team, it's just a complete and total mess right now.
Did you hear the Tom Coughlin press conference after the game?
I did not hear it.
Classic Tom Coughlin.
I can only imagine what it was like.
They asked him what they were going to do. We're going to get better. We're going to try to get better. What do you think we're going to do? We're going to try to get better. We're going to try to get
12 games
better.
left. You better get better,
Yeah,
or it's going to be a long-ass season, Tom.
Yeah, if you don't get better than you are right now, it is going to be a long season. And I hope they don't get any better this next week, as they're playing my Philadelphia Eagles, of course. But anyways, former Eagle coach Andy Reid came in and stomped them out once again. Andy Reid, man, he's came in and brought in a system to Kansas City and brought in an actual winning philosophy. I think Alex Smith being picked up was a perfect fit for them. They didn't have any turnovers the first 3 weeks. They had a couple in this game, but still got it done just because the Giants are a self-destruction waiting to happen.
Kansas City's just being efficient. They're being efficient on offense and playing good defense. And we've said it from day one. If you can be efficient and you can play the kind of defense Kansas City's playing, I mean, that's a recipe for success. I mean, Alex Smith, up until this game, had no turnovers. He did have a turnover in this game, like you said, but overall, I mean, Jamal Charles is doing work. Their defense is doing work. And, I mean, sky's the limit for Kansas City. They're winning the games they should win.
Kansas City has reminded me of 2002 Philadelphia Eagles whenever we had a young McNabb there and we were built on the defense and not turning the ball over. Just make short, consistent, accurate passes. Don't do anything stupid, and let your defense win you the game. And that's what KC's doing. Kansas City's defense is the third-ranked defense scoring-wise in the league as far as the points allowed. And, I mean, whenever you got Jamal Charles out there and Alex Smith, who doesn't make mistakes and turn the ball over, if your defense is third-ranked in the league, you're going to win a lot of ball games.
Yeah, if you're not turning the ball over and you're playing with the third-ranked D, unless you're just completely inept on offense, which, I mean, Alex Smith isn't going to wow anybody down the field with his, Peyton Manning-like throws or anything, but he's going to.
No, if there's a defender within 8 yards of any of his receivers, he's not going to throw it. He'll just hold on to it.
That's right. And I mean, and I wish we had a quarterback that would do that. We might be 3-1 right now, 4-0 right now if that was the case. So that's the key. I mean,
I'm thinking the Giants would probably wish they had a quarterback like that. Old Sling Blade out there is not looking like a Manning at this point.
I don't understand why Eli's regressed so much.
They're gonna make him sit at the kids' table at the Manning reunion.
I mean, say what you can at this point about Eli. They don't have a running game on this team, and this offense has always, since I can remember, Tiki Barber being there, has always been based around a strong running game, and they just don't have one. They don't have an identity at all right now.
They've taken David Wilson completely out of his game, making him so scared that he's going to fumble. He's running the ball now with two hands covering the ball at all times, and that takes all of his quickness away. And he's a speed back where he makes his living is making quick cuts and beating defensive players with his speed. And whenever you've got the ball tucked in your midsection, doubled over with it, there's no way you can make those kind of cuts that he needs to make. That's how Brandon Jacobs runs. That's not how David Wilson runs.
Yeah, and they brought in Jacobs, who's not going to give him anything, if you ask me. And then, their turnovers finally started to hurt them a little bit on this team. They turn over tight ends every year, and it seems like Eli manages to get a little something out of them, and they're just not getting anything. The tight end and running back has always been huge in this offense, and it's not being anything. The only person that's doing anything on the entire team is Victor Cruz every once in a while when Eli can get him the ball. Hakeem Nicks is a ghost.
MIA.
He's a ghost.
I haven't seen Hakeem Nicks make a huge play for him all year, and he's supposed to. And he's the guy that Victor Cruz was saying he's their number one receiver.
Yeah.
And if your top receiver is saying you're the number one receiver, you can't go silent for 4 weeks like he has.
Yeah, I don't know that he's right after all the injuries that he's
never
had.
right though.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, not making excuses for the guy. I mean, I think that after he had the injuries, I just don't know that he'll ever be back to being the Hakeem Nicks that we saw before the injuries. Victor Cruz is great. I mean, he is. He's a great wide receiver and
great slot receiver.
But I mean, that's all they have at this point. I mean, when Eli can get him the ball, they have a little bit of success, but they're lacking weapons and their defense is looking old. And it just is what it is at this point. It's going to be a long season for the Giants. I don't see any way, even if Eli starts playing serviceable football at this point, I don't know that their running game and defense is enough to get them over, 3 or 4 wins at this point.
A bad defense and no run games means that you can't control the game clock at all. So I don't like those odds for the New York Giants at all.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and move on now to the Monday night game, the Dolphins and the Saints. A game that, the Dolphins are basically...
Your New Orleans Hurricanes.
That's right. That's right. I mean, the Saints just keep proving me wrong at this point. I mean, they look like an elite football team. There's not very many of them in the league, and I watched this game, and Drew Brees he's playing on a level that is sufficient with how he played when they won the Super Bowl. I mean,
he's comparable with Peyton Manning right now, who's blowing the league away. And Manning's got 75% completion. Brees has 67, 14 and 70 yards for Manning, and Drew Brees has 1434. So, I mean,
he's right there. The only difference is Brees is throwing a couple picks.
He's 36 yards behind Manning as far as
yardage
goes.
wise. Yeah,
he does have 4 interceptions.
He does. That's the only difference at this point. The Saints, and when they're playing at the Superdome, I believe they're darn near unbeatable when they play like they did the other night.
I think might be what the NFC comes down to, is where that final game, the NFC Championship game's held. If it's held in the Superdome, you've got to think New Orleans.
Trouble.
It's got the edge. But if it's in Seattle, of course you're going with Seattle.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's going to be that's massive home field advantage for whoever wins it.
And they're 2 undefeated temes. They're there battling it out right now.
They're the clear head and shoulders the 2 best teams in the NFC.
Yeah, San Francisco's clearly regressed.
They have, and I think that the Packers have taken a step back too. We'll see how that goes. Of course, anytime you have Aaron Rodgers, you can't really count them out. But the Dolphins came in. I was looking at this game as maybe like it's a primetime game. You're 3-0 with a young quarterback, maybe trying to prove that they belong in the upper echelon of the league, but. I thought they fell behind from the get-go, and they just couldn't. They tried to keep pace with them, but they couldn't.
You can't keep pace with the Saints. That's like being in a cab and trying to keep up with an Indy car.
Yeah,
that's not going to work out for you. The Dolphins have got to find a run game in Miami. I mean,
their offensive line is what was exposed to me in this game. It was because their offensive line, they fell behind from the beginning, and they were and the defensive line just pinned their ears back. And the Dolphins' tackles are suspect. They let a Long go to St. Louis, and they never did really replace him. And
those guys just don't come along every day to where you can just put somebody in. I mean, last year my Eagles were horrible because of our tackle situation, and we tried to plug in Harrimans, who is a Pro Bowl caliber guard, and that just doesn't work. And I mean, right now Lamar Miller and Daniel Thomas is giving them nothing they can depend on.
I watched the game, and what I don't understand is Lamar Miller looks like he has potential. I mean, he makes some plays. He's pretty shifty, and then it looks like he starts to get into a little bit of rhythm. They put Daniel Thomas in the game. I don't understand.
I don't think he picks up blitz schemes very well.
No, he does. That could be. Yeah, that's a good point. But I mean, Yeah, Daniel Thomas can't run the ball. I mean,
No,
he's not a good running back at all.
He's a first-round pick that's turned into a bust. He was the guy they drafted to be that 25 carries a game workhorse, and he's turned out into a specialist situation back who gets the ball 5 to 8 times a game and makes no impact. It's time to move on from him.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, I mean, at this point, you're almost going to start taking some sacks and let Lamar Miller learn on the job, because that's how bad Daniel Thomas has been when he's been in the game. Now, Dolphins do have some weapons. Tannehill is a solid second-year quarterback. I mean, for a second-year guy, I mean, he made some plays in this game. He fumbled the ball. He needs to learn how to hold on to the ball if he's going to take off and run. But I'm not going to be too down. Not many teams in the league are going to go into New Orleans on Monday night and beat the Saints. It was a tall task.
Now, especially when you're not running the ball, as we touched on, the Dolphins have no running game.
You have to keep them off the field.
At this point, they might be making a call to Ricky Williams. But this past week, we made a call to Ricky Williams since we knew the Dolphins and Saints were going to play on Monday night, since he played for those two teams. Now we're going to kick it to Ricky Williams to see who's on fire.
Yeah, 'cause I got high, because I got high, because I got high.
Welcome to Ricky Williams, Who's on Fire. Now, the Saints and Dolphins played this past Monday on Monday Night Football, my two former teams, so I decided to sit down and closely pay attention to the game so I could give my thoughts to the Displaced Diehards podcast. Now, if I could have only remembered where I put my car keys, I would have attended the game live, but instead, I watched with my boy Bob, and there were a few people there too. The Saints are on fire, man. Jimmy Graham with 2 TDs in the game. What an awesome name, man. Jimmy Graham. That's great. Graham. I used to get Grahams of New Orleans Thunder for $10 when I played there. Those were the days, man. What were we talking about again? What were we talking about? I was talking? No, I wasn't. What was I talking about? Oh, the Saints and the Dolphins, that's right. When did they play again? They already played? When did they play? Well, who won? No way, dude. I am mind blown right now, man. Sorry, Displaced Diehards, I have no recollection of the game to be able to talk about it. I heard the Saints won, though. I hope my favorite player, Jimmy Graham, did well. Graham. That's great. Anyways, this is Ricky Williams, signing off.
Yeah, 'cause I got high, because I got high, because I got high. La, 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 da, da, da.
Thank you, Ricky Williams, for Who's on Fire this week. And if Ricky can remember that he's on the podcast, maybe we'll hear from him next week.
Man, I hope so. He's fairly entertaining.
Going to go ahead and kick it to the number one team in the NFC, as most people see it, the Seattle Seahawks, taking on a good test here in the AFC opponent, the Houston Texans, and it all came down to the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left. Houston up 7. Matt Schaub makes a horrible decision and throws the ball up for grabs between Owen Daniels and Richard Sherman, the best cornerback in the league. And, of course, Richard Sherman wins that battle, takes it to the house for 7. They end up tying the game, going to overtime, and getting the win. Thank you, Matt Schaub.
God, huge kick in the balls for Houston fans. I mean, they've won a couple games this season where they shouldn't have won. So this one kind of is karma in the sense of saying
football gods got one
came
back
and got them. That's right. They lost. They beat the Titans on a game when they had no business winning that game.
The Chargers as well.
The Chargers game as well. They just were outplayed for 3.5 quarters and squeaked one out. But yeah, so the gods got one back. But Schaub, the whole coaching staff across the board could really be put the blame on this one. And I'm the kind of guy that likes to throw the ball when you're trying to run the clock out. I don't want to play. If I'm a coach in the NFL, I've seen enough video as a Vikings fan. Believe me, I've seen plenty of video
the last 2 weeks
to where the last 3 weeks where you don't want to play the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game any different than you've played the entire game, because it's. You see it millions of times where teams
you
just
play to win the game.
Right. You run it up the middle, you run it up the middle, you run it up the middle, you punt, and then the team runs down, and they score against your prevent defense. It happens all the time. So I understand the mentality, but when you're playing the Seattle Seahawks, a team with ball hawks at corners, and you run this kind of play, I mean, I'm not defending Matt Schaub. He should never have thrown that ball. I saw Tim Hasselback defending him on SportsCenter, and you cannot defend a guy who throws it just out in the flat without even looking. When you obviously had to watch tape on these corners all week.
In all fairness, though, Hasselback's got to defend him because he's in the same mediocre balding quarterback club as Matt Schaub.
Yeah, come on, Schaub. You cost your team the game right there. It wasn't just him. There was a comedy of errors in the fourth quarter and in overtime that this team made, and it just looks like Kubiak just kind of let one get away from him, and the Texans just haven't been playing good football this year.
You've got to let Matt Schaub audible out of that play call. There's been reports that he can't audible out. He doesn't have that option. He's a 32-year-old, 10-year veteran.
Tell me
in
why.
The quarterback. Why would if he's your quarterback
and you have Arian Foster,
you're not expecting
and Ben Tate at running back.
Him to get better at this point. He's 32. He is what he is, and
we talked about this last week.
He's your starting quarterback that you expect to win a Super Bowl with, and you don't trust him enough to make a play call.
If your quarterback walks to the line of scrimmage and you've got this play drawn up and you see the kind of coverage that's going to get you in this kind of predicament, either A, which obviously what he should have done is just taken the sack or thrown the ball 40 yards out of bounds, or B, you audible to a run play to one of the better running backs in the game that I've been pretty down on, Arian Foster, or even the best backup in football, and Ben Tate, and one of those guys, and what you do is you punt. At this point, and you give your defense, which is led by J.J. Watt, one of the better defenders in the game, and you have one of the better defenses, and Russell Wilson has struggled to make plays against your defense all day. You make them go down and you make them beat you that way. You don't just throw a cupcake interception and that can cost your entire team the game, and that's exactly what happened.
You said, against Seattle's defensive backs, those guys, they're two of the top 5 cornerbacks in the league.
Did you not watch tape on these guys?
That's what they do.
That's right. So why are you doing? I've heard some people defending him, saying they're running the play action. He turns his back to the D. That's how you sell the play. I understand, but you don't just turn around and let the ball go blindly without seeing what's going on. That's unexcusable.
Yeah, you take the sack there. You've got to know the game situation. You have 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and you're up 7. The only thing that could happen there that's going to change that game is an interception.
That's right.
The sack's not going to change the game. The sacks, you're going to live to see another day. You're going to punt. And your defense is going to go at it.
So it is what it is. Houston takes the L. Like we said, it kind of balanced itself out, except, the teams that they beat, they shouldn't have beat, San Diego and Tennessee, and this one comes back to get them.
I know Houston won't trust their quarterback as it is, but Seattle, man, they've got a second-year quarterback, and I would trust him to run a Super Bowl 2-minute offense. He plays like a 10-year veteran, and he's only been there for 2 years.
He squeaked out that first down on the ground. It was just an unbelievable play by Russell Wilson.
He reminds me of early career Donovan McNabb, just totally the way he doesn't make mistakes, and he uses his elusiveness to make time to pass.
Absolutely, he's very impressive. I was impressed with him in the playoffs last year. Watching him play as a rookie in the playoffs, I thought he looked like a 10-year vet, and he still does. And Seattle, their defense to go along with him. When this team is 4-0 right now, they're going to get Percy Harvin back probably around week 10. Look out. The NFC is in bad shape when Percy Harvin comes. If he's anywhere near the Percy Harvin that I saw in this offense, it's going to add a feature to this team they don't have right. Golden Tate is Golden Tate. He's not Percy Harvin.
He's a poor man's Percy Harvin is what he is, and you're going to have
extremely poor.
You're going to have the real version 2.0 souped up version coming back about week 11 or so, and like we said, it's all about getting the home field advantage for Seattle. If they're at home in the playoffs, you can pretty much write them in the Super Bowl. They don't lose at home,
and they've won a couple games like this one and maybe the Carolina game. That if the team would have made just one more play, they could very easily be 2-2. But the fact of the matter is, they're making the play.
Those are games that you can also turn around and look at it the other way and say good teams win those
games.
That's
exactly what I was getting to.
They're winning
right.
it.
That's right. They're making the plays to win the game, and that's what championship teams do. They find ways to win games when they're not having their best day, and that's definitely what they did on Sunday.
Speaking about teams that know how to win some games, your Minnesota Vikings.
That's right. They know how to win.
Well,
I told you, and if you listen to the predictions last week, they were going to roll right over the Pittsburgh Steelers, no problem.
They know how to almost give it away in the fourth quarter every week too.
I need my Lanta.
Every Sunday I sit here and watch the demise just roll over my tag team partner Steve here as the lead just slips away in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, we're up 17 in the fourth quarter, and I've got 3 texts on my phone. They're like, Castle's the starter. You got a bench Ponder. The Vikings, they're going to get this win. Castle. I said, just hold your horses here. We're up 17. It don't mean nothing. Until that clock hits 00, I am not even considering this game a victory. Our defense plays they play good. They play solid football for a while, and then they just decide to just go into ghost mode and then disappear. I don't understand it.
But is that because they're deciding to play zone because they don't think teams can catch up to them? With
I have no idea.
Of the game, because I mean, it becomes a totally different defense.
Well, I'll credit Ben Roethlisberger with some of it on Sunday. I've been complaining that on the first 2 times that we let this happen, we kind of stopped bringing the heat. We set back in the zone like you were talking about, but we really did. We brought the heat. I mean, we brought linebackers, we got pressure on Roethlisberger, and he made some pretty epic throws to get him in. And I'm not going to put this one on the coaching staff either, because I felt like they played not to lose. They got the ball a couple times when we had the lead, and we drove down the field on a pretty impressive drive. We ran a lot of clock off, and Blair Walsh, unlike him, he misses a chip shot field goal that would have put us up by 13 at that point. So then, the Steelers had no problem marching back down. I can't really put my finger on what it is at this point, why teams are having such a heyday on us in the fourth quarter.
You were saying all day they didn't handle prosperity well.
They don't.
As soon as they're up in a game, they start going into relax mode.
Yeah,
almost.
they get up 10, and it's just like, what, it's...
The press off the line coming after the quarterback from the defense isn't the same.
I saw that a few times. I saw that a few times with Robinson. He's getting abused out there. Josh Robinson. If you're listening, I'm begging you. If you're please, Antoine Winfield. We've got a bye week. You're in shape. My God, please, we need you. I'm begging you, please. I'll get on my hands and knees if need be. We need Antoine Winfield. Josh Robinson is getting flat out abused, and we lack leadership on defense in key situations. Jared Allen had a great game in the first half, but that guy, I was just talking about this in the New Orleans game, when you get behind a team and for a fact they're going to throw, your defensive ends have got to get their ears pinned back, and they got to start making plays. Now Robeson, I noticed him getting held quite a bit.
All day.
And not being called, and so he was.
Apparently, there's no holding in London.
But in the second half, Jared Allen just disappeared in all these, the plays where they're going to throw. They're down 17 with 10 minutes to go, and Jared Allen just is disappearing out there.
Half-assing it out there, and whenever he does make it to the quarterback, he overruns him by 4 yards.
He does, yeah. I'm not trying to be too hard on Jared. He did have 3.5 sacks in this game, so it's hard to be too hard on him. But what I'm trying to say is when the clock's ticking down, you need because begging somebody, I'm like, just somebody out there make a play.
Like you said,
somebody make a play. And finally, Everson Griffin, he made the play and secured the win. If we could have made that same play
like
2 weeks in a row, we're 3-1.
You said, with no leadership out there's nobody out there on the field telling those guys that you just need to make this play. Just man up and make this play of the game. We got the game in hand. It's time for our defense to win it. We're not going to rely on the offense, especially when we got our backup quarterback in. It's time for the defense to make a play, stand up. And there's nobody out there that can call those guys in a check.
Forget the fact that you had the backup. We've got 34 points on the board. If you score 34 points in the NFL and you lose, especially when it's 34 points strictly from your offense. Now, I realize we scored 31 against the Bears, and then whatever we scored against the Browns, I can't recall right now, but it was a high number, and those were some special teams, some defense. But this game was all offense. Our offense produced in this game. There's no way you can tell me that this is any way, shape, or form on them. The defense is the one who, got to step up and make that play at the end. And they did make it.
I think the Minnesota offense definitely benefited from Jerome Felton being back. He was out there opening up holes for AP that you could fit a truck through. I mean, Jerome Felton is way, way underrated.
Way underrated. And this offense, we need AP. Like I've been preaching it for weeks. You cannot go 2nd and 10, 3rd and 11. This offense thrives on 3rd and short. And if we can't put our team in 3rd and short, we're not going to be successful. And that's what makes Felton so important, because you don't see AP 1 yard in a cloud of dust with Felton in there. He at least rolls for like 4. So that's what this offense thrives on. And
also, like the offense led by Matt Castle, that he was actually using the wide receivers a little more. Jerome Simpson and Greg Jennings actually making some plays this week. And whenever Ponder's in there, it's short dink and dunk passes, and those guys don't really get a chance to get in the flow. And I mean, right off the bat, Castle was out there letting it fly.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking me. They're saying, who you got? You got Castle, you got Ponder. Who do you? And I really don't care.
They're
to
about
be honest.
the same.
I really don't care. I want to roll with Ponder. Part of me does, because I want to make sure that the guy's done for. I mean, I love his grit and determination, and I'm not. And like I said, I just said it. The offense put points on the board. We put enough points on the board to win. Every game we've played this year. I mean, Ponder made a few mistakes, absolutely. Castle made a few mistakes in the game. It just so happens his fumble went for a first down for us, and his long bomb.
That doesn't happen in Minnesota. Usually those plays go against you.
Right, and his long bomb, Cordell Patterson broke up a big interception at the very beginning of that game. So those kind of plays have been kind of going against Christian Ponder. Things I saw that I did like better from Castle was his pocket presence is far better. Ponder is never stops moving his feet.
Yeah. Once Ponder gets pressure, it gets real sketchy.
He has no trust in the O-line this season, and it shows. Castle stood in there. He stepped up and delivered a couple rockets. He has a much stronger arm than Ponder, and like you said, I'll prefer him looking down the field as opposed to look down the field for a half a second and then check down to AP or Rudolph.
It makes AP's life a lot easier whenever you got the threat of Jerome Simpson and like your boy Patterson, Cordero Patterson. If they can find a way to get this kid involved, he's got speed for days. He's a playmaker waiting to get the play.
The whole team is talented. I mean, that's what has drove me craziest about normally I don't even care. If we're losing, you know what? Hey, it is what it is. I'm used to it. What drives me crazy about this team is this team should be 3-1 right now. We should be we lost to the Lions. Reggie Bush, he beat us, okay? But we beat the Bears and we beat the Browns. They just made a play at the end of the game. The fact of the matter is we've got to find a way to put it together in the fourth quarter. The talent on this team is good enough to win this division, and it's just frustrating, and hopefully we can dig ourselves out of this hole. We've got a couple winnable games coming up after the bye, so we'll see how it goes.
I know there's one person that knows that Minnesota Vikings can win this division, and it's the Viking warrior, Odinson.
Ha! 'Tis I, Sir Odinson. Truly thou hast endured much suffering in these 3 weeks of last. Thy Norseman hath brought upon a rage so great that not even the many enemies of Asgard could provoke. But this Sunday of past, thy Vikings of Minnesota, like the warriors of old, set sail across the great waters to a new land and claimed this stadium of Wembley as thy own. It was on this foreign soil that the warriors of the North waged war upon the Steelers of Pittsburgh. Sir Greg of Jennings was most impressive, showing there are more makers of plays than just Sir Adrian of Peterson. Sir Jennings' touchdowns were two, coming forth from a 70-yard play where he broke several tackles, putting the Vikings up 10-0 early in quarter of the first. Sir Peterson also made his way to the zone event twice, one being a monstrous 60-yard run. Sir Peterson ran for 140 yards, while Sir Jennings finished with 92 yards on 3 receptions. Truly, one could say this increase in production is credited to Sir Matthew of Castle, whom was playing in place of a fragile and broken Christian of Ponder. Sir Castle finished the day throwing for 248 yards and 2 touchdowns. And though thou is not sold on Sir Castle, truly all receivers of the Norse have benefited from having him on the field. Regardless of the back of quarters, Sir Peterson and Sir Jennings will pose a threat to many a team forward moving in this season. Thy Vikings lead this game all the way through the quarter of fourth. It was here that thyself and thy Warriors 3 began to fear that our Norsemen would figure out a way to give this game away, as we've seen in previous weeks. Hell, every year, as the Steelers brought themselves within 1 score and possession of the ball, with only a minute left. Then, as if Odin himself had given them thy strength, thy Vikings defense stripped this Big Ben of the ball and recovered it to bring forth the first victory to the land of the Norse. Truly all Vikings of the North are welcome to spend the week of bye in the lands of Asgard, where the mead will flow and the songs will be sung in thy honor. So Heimdall, you all seeing, all hearing, son of a whore, open thy rainbow bridge Bifrost, for me and my brethren are coming home to celebrate.
Thank you to the Viking warlord Odinson with his thoughts on his Vikings getting the big win there.
He always pumps me up. He's fired me up for the rest of the podcast at this point.
Going to move it on to the team we didn't expect to have as many wins as they do already this season. Your New York Jets taking on Ill Bill Hardesty's Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I mean, the game I said I didn't really want to watch. I ended up watching quite a bit of the highlights on it. I'm starting to become a little bit of a fan of the Tennessee Titans. I mean, Jake Locker, I'm cheering for his. Hopefully he can come along and become a a decent quarterback. Because that quarterbacks that were taken in that draft, at this point, it's not been well in the first round anyway.
Yeah, I bet you're loving that the Titans got him before the
Yeah,
Minnesota
I know
Vikings
for
had
a
a chance
fact-
to
I
draft
know for-
Locker. That's who y'all were going
I
to
know
draft.
for a fact we were drafting Locker, and then when the clock came ticking, Spielman freaked out, which I mean that's unusual for him. But I know for a fact that they didn't want to take Ponder there, but they really had no choice because I know that Locker was the guy they wanted to take.
Locker looks like the guy in Tennessee now. I mean, they brought in a bunch of offensive line help, like we said, and they've got Chris Johnson and Jackie Battle, I believe.
Yeah.
Your preseason boy out there
that's right.
getting some reps in.
That's right. I actually got one thing right in the preseason.
Sean Green was out as he always tends to be, so
know where he's at.
he couldn't
Who
make
knows?
our predictions of him
It's
looking
Sean
bad turned into untrue.
The fact of the matter is, Tennessee is, they were winning the game up front. Their offensive and defensive lines are getting the job done. Their defense was bad last year. They played a lot of bad football in Tennessee, and they brought in the guy that I'm not too big on. I'm not even going to mention his name, but to help the defense there. And
they brought in Tebow?
they brought in, and their defense is playing winning football, and then you combine that, like we say, you combine that with Locker, who's not turning the ball over, and you got a formula for success. And
playing small ball
they
in
are.
Tennessee, and it's
They
working
are.
out for him. And up until the point that Jake Locker got hit by Quentin Coples and another Jet, and they kind of got blindsided, knocked right into Quentin Coples and dislocated. Thought he tore a hip, maybe. I mean, that could have been a career ender if it had went as bad as it looked when he was laying on the field not moving. I don't know. I didn't know what the hell happened to him when he was laying on the field. He got
looked like
shot.
He was dead. Yeah. I mean, they got some weapons in the passing game. Nate Washington, we've touched on him.
Displaced Diehards' favorite,
he
Nate
is.
Washington.
And
We
he's
told you to start him.
Every year, nobody drafts him, and every year he gets picked up about week 2 or 3 and becomes a
viable
solid
starter,
fantasy wide receiver. And he was Locker's number one target. I mean, the guy is putting up numbers. And then another guy, I tell you, one thing I want to touch on this podcast today is the rookie wide receivers throughout the league. You don't normally see rookie wide receivers come in the league and make an impact, but there's a few of them that I really liked in this draft because I really wanted the Vikings to take one. Justin Hunter out of Tennessee, Cordell Patterson's teammate. He hadn't made a lot of catches, but he's made some unbelievable touchdown catches, and you can see the athleticism, the potential that he has.
You can see how the college game has turned into a more pro-style game, and
It
wide
has.
receivers used to take 3 to 4 years to get acclimated to the NFL style of offense. Now they're coming right in and making impacts.
Yeah, I mean, you got Hunter, and then you got Patterson, who's not really made a huge impact in the passing game. You can see the potential is there, and then DeAndre Hopkins in Houston. They're all three.
Tompkins
you can
is starting
see,
to make
that's right,
contributions
that's right.
in New England.
And I know he fumbled in the Dallas game, but Williams from Baylor, he's a solid pickup for the Cowboys too. A lot of young.
Notice who we haven't mentioned yet is the first wide receiver taken, Tavon Austin. So if he
Yeah.
ever steps up, then you've got another
The thing
game
about Tavon
changer
Austin,
there.
yeah, look at Tavon Austin as more of like a slash kind of guy. I mean, at this point, I don't see him making a huge impact in the passing game unless it's bubble screens. And
I think they're hoping
and
for him to
things
turn
like
out
that.
maybe best case scenario Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, I would be shocked if he ever makes that kind of I just don't see him as being that kind of player. I see him being more like a smaller version of a Percy Harvin, a guy that you throw short to, and
I think that's
gets
why.
a lot of yak.
I think that's what they drafted him for,
Yeah.
though. The intentions was they thought he was going to be a Deshaun Jackson type out of
to take
college.
him that high, you
And it's
almost
not-
have to.
It's not turning out. He doesn't have the. He doesn't have the He's fast. He doesn't have the explosive speed of Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, get back to the Titans though. I'm very impressed. I thought Munchak was pretty much a dead man walking. I didn't think that he would make it through the season, long on past the season, and the Titans are surprising me here. They're like I said, they're winning the game in the trenches, and lots of times, especially when you play games against teams like the Jets, and
It's going to be a dirty, ugly football
Right.
game. That's how the Titans and the Jets both want to play.
they dominated the Jets up front. I mean, Geno Smith had his worst game as a pro. And it's funny because everybody in the NFL, the media, just cracks me up from one week to the next. You got guys talking about Geno as the next second coming of freaking RG3, and then now this week people are talking about benching him. And it's just
after
absurd.
one performance, I mean, Andrew Luck last year against the Jets, speaking of that, had a horrible performance. Did you want to bench Andrew Luck last year
you let
off
Geno
one performance? He's a rookie. Let him play.
Did you watch Mark Sanchez run this offense? I mean,
Anybody remember Troy Aikman as a rookie?
Oh,
Won
yeah,
one
1 in
game?
15. That's right. Yeah, let the guy play. I mean, the Titans did whip them in this game, but I mean, it's nothing. I mean, it's just one game.
Not like anybody had the Jets going to the playoffs anyways.
No, and they've already won more games than I had them winning, so you got to leave the guy in there and let him take his lumps.
I'm going to kick it now to two teams that everybody had in the playoff picture in the NFL. We're going to kick it to Atlanta Falcons versus the New England Patriots. Bring in our New England Patriots correspondent and superfan, Chris Couples. We call him Gimp.
Greetings, salutations, guys. Thanks for having me on, Brandon, Steven.
Absolutely.
Got your New England Patriots 4-0.
4-0.
Nothing new to Patriots fans, but all of us Patriots haters who our team just continuously struggle. We were hoping to see the New England Patriots fall after your first tight end Gronk has 17 off-season surgeries, and then your second
8 surgeries.
Then your second tight end is sitting in prison on murder charges.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, he's right. You better watch out.
3 of them.
Hernandez is closer to the show than you may think. He might not be here next week. You keep throwing those accusations around.
I had the snake take over my part of the show next week.
That's right. Kermit will be sitting in with me over here.
But anyway, cake file.
Like I said,
toothpaste.
Like I said earlier, Tom Brady, I have him as my number 1 quarterback in the league. The things he's doing out there with these receivers that they shouldn't even know most of the routes at this point. I mean, he's getting pissed off at them. He's got to be starting to learn to love these young guys now. Tompkins is starting to become the guy he looks at for down the field plays.
Yeah, I mean, Tompkins is coming along. Dobson's still dropping the ball every once in a while. So, but Brady is definitely starting to get some sort of rapport with Tompkins. They'll probably be getting Amendola back this week, maybe Gronk. Like I say, I don't know how far along they are, but I thought they might both play this week, and neither one of them made the trip. But I think that as long as Brady's there, it really doesn't matter who makes the trip. You gotta put the Patriots at the top near the top of the league.
Belichick plus Brady equals wins, regardless. It looks like the Patriots of 2004 these days. They're winning their games off defense instead of expecting Tom Brady to go out there and put 40 points on the board. And Brady is doing the perfect things. He's not making turnovers. He's not forcing things. He's just going out there, scoring points consistently, and winning games because their defense is Chandler Jones been a huge addition to their defense. He's putting pressure on quarterbacks out there, and that's what they've been missing since they got rid of Richard Seymour.
Yeah, you got to talk about the defense a little bit. I mean, it did lose Vince Wilfork, big time blow there
that's going to hurt
to the squad. But Aqib Talib. That guy was making plays left and right. And then what about your boy LeGarrette Blount coming in there at the end of the game and blowing it wide open?
As long as Talib doesn't end up in prison with Hernandez for shooting somebody, it looks like a hell of a pickup from the Patriots. But, yeah, like I said, LeGarrette Blount, I've always been a fan of this guy since he came into the league. Well, actually, since he was knocking people out in college and got suspended. But LeGarrette Blount, I think they use Garrett Blount for once they get a lead in the game, and
he's like the closer.
Yeah, so I mean,
Mariano Rivera of the New England Patriots.
Once they don't use him much in the first half, but once they get a 10, 14-point lead, they're like, all right, big man, you're 260 pounds, go out there and win this game for us. Like we were saying, teams aren't playing to win the game. That's the way that the New England Patriots are winning games. They're putting the ball in LeGarrette Blount's hand and telling him to go win it for it, and so far he's been successful. And he's also returning kicks, which is crazy. Could you imagine trying to tackle somebody 260 pounds on a kick return?
I always see a gunner try to run up on LeGarrette Blount and try to take a shot at him. It's not a very wise decision. But, yeah, New England, I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to their defense. I mean, in the situations that they've been in with their receivers not really getting the job done, their defense has really stepped up and held the game in check. Especially against a team like Atlanta, you look at their offensive firepower. Especially in the Georgia Dome, the coffin, as the count calls it. I mean, that's where they score a lot of their points. And for them to keep the game in check while Brady was struggling there through the first half, not necessarily Brady struggling, but the offense was struggling to put points on the board. Their defense kept them right in it.
Well, for Aqib Talib to hold Julio Jones to fucking 6 receptions and 108 yards, and 9 of those yards came on the last drive of the play. That's pretty great. We haven't had a presence in the secondary, anything close.
A lot of Julio's stats came once the game
was out of hand. That's correct.
They were playing prevent defense at that point.
Yeah, I mean, Talib was making plays to just kill him at this. I mean, they were, that. He pretty much won the game for the Patriots in this one. I mean, he put him in position.
There's no question about that, Steve.
Yeah, no question. He was the man in this game. Like I say, LeGarrette Blount was the closer. They almost let it get away from him in the end. They unpatriot-like there towards the end when they fumbled the snap. And
Well, we haven't seen a Patriots defense protect the lead in a long time. We're used to waiting on Brady to score points and run it up on everyone. But for them to show up and stop the run and to stop the pass, it really was actually impressive. I mean, we went through the first 2 weeks with Buffalo and New York, and we're snaking out close wins against everyone. And you're looking at those teams, and you're like, you have to beat them, but we're not beating them. We're not putting them away like you're used to.
like you're used to the Patriots doing it, like 41 to
Used to
nothing.
Belichick, you're
Right.
stomping on their throats. You're putting them away.
Average
But-
fans are happy with these wins, but Patriots fans not so much.
No,
they
you're
need
greedy.
That's right.
You really are.
absolutely.
You're entitled at that point, and it's almost sad at this point. But you're not.
But I mean,
you're
this is
not
a
used to
big
living-
win. You have to be happy with this win
You're-
in a Georgia dome.
To be honest, this was the matchup that I was looking at. We're gonna lose this game.
I thought this was when the lack of weapons was going to catch up.
I
to
really
him
did,
myself,
too.
especially being in the coffin.
I did too. Yeah, the coffin. You expect the Falcons to put up a lot of
The
points.
nail is gonna get driven through the heart. That's what you're expecting. At this
That's what
point.
I was expecting. I was expecting Matty Ice, so they call him, to
But
show up.
He's ice cold.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
A lot of our correspondents on here had him MVP of the league, and they had the Falcons. A lot of not just the correspondents on this show, but nationwide had the Falcons in the Super Bowl or near it, and they
might
are
even be in the
regressing.
playoffs right
1-3. I mean,
1-3, while the Saints are 4-0. At this point, you're thinking wild card if you're Atlanta. 3 games to make up versus a team that's already beat you. That's a tall task.
You're talking
Saints
about
have
a
to fall off the
defense
face of the
They
earth.
gave up. I mean, Julian Edelman. Who knows who that is?
And now he's your number one option
Exactly.
on offense, and he's
I
still
mean,
4-0.
That's Belichick,
He had
though.
118 yards. Kimbrel Tompkins, undrafted free agent out of Cincinnati, 6'10", 195 pounds, going up and making plays.
I
think
think-
he gained a rapport in training camp with Tom Brady, and that
Yeah,
was
I
that
think
was the end
guy,
of it at that
I think
point.
that guy's became number one option for Tom Brady as
Yes,
far as
he's
as
number
far
one
as deep
option.
threats.
For sure. I mean, and when they get Gronk back and they get Amendola back, I mean, I really think that
Wait a minute, my phone's ringing.
I
And it's
I think I
murder-
know who that is.
And it's murder was the case. So obviously, this is our correspondent Aaron Hernandez checking in from Connecticut Correctional.
Yo, what's crackin', It's that free agent freedom fighter, Aaron Hernandez, back on the Displaced Diehard podcast, giving you my New England Patriots report. Man, the Patriots, we killing it. It's like we playing semi-pros out there or something, you know what I'm saying? How about old Tom Brady, son? He's still on that John Gotti level, even without your boy here. No Gronkowski, no matter. And the wide receivers he's working with, man, they couldn't hold my gun holster. Let's just say they couldn't catch me on a murder case, even with my loose ends on evidence. Now, if you think Will Folk's injury is going to slow us down, you blowing more angel dust and bath salt than your boy here. Next player up is how we get down in New England. We like a Tommy gun, son. The bullets just keep flying. But like I said, my New England Patriots, we killing it. We 4-0. But now, Bernie Kosar has checked in to the Connecticut Correctional Facilities, and he somehow managed to sneak in a large amount of Goldschlager. So I'm going to go get my drink on. Right now, I'm going to kick it back to Stephen Ward in the Displaced Diehard podcast studio. Until next time, saying free Hernandez. Aye.
Thank you to the free agent freedom fighter Aaron Hernandez. Sound like they're having a hell of a party down there in the correctional facilities. Him and drunk Bernie.
Wow.
We had a hell of a time this past
Yeah.
week on our predictions. I went 11-4. You went 10-5.
Not bad.
Turned it around. I'm 41-22 on the season. You're 35-28. The casual fan is actually on vacation this week, trying to trying to sharpen his prediction skills as he missed this pick. Now he's 1-3. But now we're going to go ahead and kick it into week 5, give our predictions on that. And if you paid attention to the show last week, you're going to want to write this down.
Yeah, you go ahead and get your.
Because we are owning it.
Take notes, baby, because this week we're going to be tearing it up. Let's go ahead and head down to the Dog Pound in Cleveland. They're going to be hosting the Buffalo Bills and the E.J. Manuel. I'm going to roll with my Cleveland Browns and Brian Hoyer, Jordan Cameron, and Josh Gordon. Browns win big.
I'm going with Buffalo in this game. I think the wheels have got to fall off at Cleveland sometime. Sorry, Bernie.
let's get in our car and drive up to Soldier Field. It's not that far from Cleveland. So the Chicago Bears are going to be playing host to the New Orleans Saints. My Saints. I love them. Drew Brees is going to throw for 5 touchdowns in this game. I didn't trade him, so let's throw for 7 if you can, Drew. I'm taking the Saints to win and beat the Bears and keep Jay Cutler out of the winning column.
These are the 2 teams I've refused to buy into in the previous 4 weeks of the picks portion of this show, so I've got to pick one of them this week, and I'm going to go with the Saints.
That's right. Saints on grass. It could be dangerous, but I'm going to roll with the Saints. Let's go down to Cincinnati. Also, you could probably drive from Chicago to Cincinnati. Let's go on down.
Unless you're drunk, Bernie. Don't drive.
Don't drive, especially through the Ohio area, Bernie.
Take a cab, Bernie.
That's right. The Cincinnati Bengals will be playing host to Gimp's New England Patriots. I'm going to roll with the Cincinnati Bengals to give the New England Patriots their first defeat of the season.
I've just preached about how Tom Brady's my number 1 quarterback in the league, and I'm going to stick behind it and pick New England to get the win.
You got to be different, so go ahead and roll with New England. As you can see, Ward's picks have been much better than mine. Let's go up to a place that I call it that's near and dear to my heart. I love this place. It's God's country. Lambeau Field, ladies and gentlemen. The Green Bay Packers play host to NFC North rival, the Detroit Lions, and I'm actually going to pick, for the first time this year, the Green Bay Packers.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Green Bay Packers. That'd hurt your soul. That'd hurt your soul a little bit there. I'm going to go with
refs are giving them 10.
I'm going to go with Green Bay, too, just because they're off their bye week, and Detroit is still not a very well-coached team.
No, you have to roll with Green Bay in this one, right? I mean, they're at Lambeau. If Green Bay loses this one, then my prediction of them not winning the NFC North is going to come true. But
that'll be one, right?
Hey, let's go 2 hours away from home. This week I will watch it. I said I wouldn't watch it last week. I will watch it this week, and I'll also take free tickets if anybody's got them because the Vikings are on a bye. The Tennessee Titans will play host to the Kansas City Chiefs. I stumbled a little bit there. A little bit. Fat ass is coming to town. Give me the Tennessee Titans. They're my Titans now. I'm taking them under my wing. I'm making them my own.
Give me my Kansas City Chiefs and my fat ass to get the win.
Hey, Kansas City's got to lose at some point. There's no way they're going 16-0. No better week to do it than Harvard quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick throws for 700 yards and 4 touchdowns, and my boy Nate Washington gets 3 of them. How about that? Hey, let's keep it close. Let's go up to Indy. They're going to be playing host to the Seattle Seahawks. Who you got?
I got Indianapolis in this game, and the first loss for Seattle. Seattle's a totally different team at home, and give me the Colts.
We're going opposite again. I'm going Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson comes to town and shows that he's the better quarterback out of the two, Andrew Luck. And I'm going to go ahead and take the Seattle Seahawks.
It's funny how we agree on mostly everything we talk about on this show, and then our picks come down, and we totally pick opposite picks.
Hey, game picks mean nothing. The actual results of the game mean nothing. I can break down the NFL every snap of the game. I can break it down. The final score, I have no clue what I'm talking about.
Like we said last week, we get them all right, and just sometimes not the score.
People are so impressive. They'll text me and they'll be like, man, I listened to the podcast, and you actually know a lot about the NFL. And then I'm like, yeah, but have you seen my picks? They're terrible. Like anything that I tell you to bet on, bet the opposite because I'm always wrong. Hey, let's keep it close again. You can drive from Indy to St. Louis. The Rams host the Jaguars. And everybody's favorite team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hang on 1 second. Hang on.
Let's Google this. Research coming, ladies.
Blaine Gabbert still sucks.
It's a
newsflash. He still sucks, and he's still going to be the quarterback. And
he's still holding Cecil Shorts down. Damn it!
This week will be the week Denard Robinson takes his first snap at quarterback because Chad Henne's not getting it done. Blaine Gabbert's not getting it done. Let's give it to Denard Robinson, and the Rams will still win. They're bound to win at home this time. I'm picking my St. Louis Rams to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. Please, God, get it done.
I'm picking Jacksonville Jaguars to bring in Mark Brunell and get the win over St. Louis.
Oh, Mark Brunell.
Going back to the 90s in the glory days and bringing it home. They don't want They don't want Tebow. They want Brunell. They want Brunell.
Yeah, you know what? That's how bad it is in Jacksonville.
Bring back Tony Bazzelli and Fred Taylor, too.
We're watching Jacksonville on the game mix, and it's Indianapolis and Jacksonville. And I looked at Raj, I looked at Ward, and I looked at Hardesty, and I said, why not Tim Tebow? I mean,
it's come to that.
Why not? I mean, can it get any worse in Jacksonville? God bless you, Jacksonville Jaguars fans.
God is giving up on Tebow, but apparently the Jaguars should.
I'm not giving up on him. Let's go. Somebody, please help the Jacksonville Jaguars at this point. But let's go ahead and head down to Miami. I don't think you want to make that drive.
Going down to South Beach.
South Beach, home of LeBron James. King James. They're going to be hosting the defending Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to go ahead and roll with Miami in this game.
LeBron's better than Jordan, Miami.
Yeah, Yeah.
Moving on.
That's it. That's the end of it. Okay, we'll head up to New York. A game that near and dear to your heart. The Philadelphia Eagles will make the trip up to the new Meadowlands Stadium to host. Sling Blade's going to be playing quarterback for the Giants, what I hear this week. Hopefully it's Sling Blade for your sake anyway. Hey, guess what? I'm rolling with the Giants.
Oh, come on now. Tag team partner. There's dissension in the ranks of the Legion of Doom right now.
Hey, you picked the Steelers last week.
I'm going with my Eagles. If we can't beat the damn Giants, I'm not watching the rest of the season.
I went with the Giants. They got to win sometime. I mean, Jesus, they're that bad. I was about to say, are they that bad? They are that bad.
Please not this week.
All right, let's go down to the toaster oven, known as the home of the Arizona Cardinals. They're going to be hosting my Carolina Panthers.
That's why Kurt Warner's forehead was always sunburnt.
I'm rolling with Luke Kuechly. I can't say his last name. It's Kuechly. Luke Kuechly. That's right. Kuechly and my boy Cam Newton is going to get it done. Arizona is not my team. They're your team.
Yeah, I've given up on that whole thing after seeing Carson Palmer.
The Carson Palmer connection, done. Divorce.
Carson Palmer does not look like Carson Palmer from Cincinnati.
No.
We're getting Carson Palmer bad days at the Raiders, and Fitzgerald looks like
that's what the Raiders will do to you.
Fitzgerald looks like he's about 45 out there, so
Fitzgerald.
I'm rolling with Cam Newton.
All right. Well, we both picked the Panthers, so we're on the same page there. How about we head down to Jerry's world? Jerry's gonna.
I'm picking the Broncos.
I don't even want to give this game. Broncos, they scored 55-60 in this game. I'm going to go Denver Broncos over my Monty Kiffin defense in a laugher. How about that?
I will be laughing.
In a laugher, except for Chris Riley, who hasn't been on the podcast in weeks.
It's because Sons of Anarchy.
He's MIA because Sons of Anarchy's back.
And his vagina hurts.
Where are you, Riley? I'm calling you out next week. Come on the podcast. You got an open invite. Anyway. Let's go up to San Francisco. There's not as many games this week. I'm getting kind of frustrated because last week there was like 20 games, and this week there's not bye weeks.
Got Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, and Washington on bye this week.
Anyway, all right, 49er fans, I'm sorry. You're going to be playing host to the Houston Texans, who's going to get another defeat. The Texans are going to lose again, and they're going to be calling for T.J. Yates at quarterback pretty soon. I'm going with the Niners for at least 2 touchdowns.
I'm going with my San Francisco 49ers and my favorite quarterback that's not an Eagle, my favorite non-Eagle in the league, Colin Kaepernick, finally going to wake up, realize he's got to run the ball. If you don't run the ball with Kaepernick, you basically got Alex Smith there. Why the hell did you even make the switch if you're not going to have him run? Let Kaepernick run. That's 49ers. Right.
Listen to it, Harbaugh, as if we know more than you do at this point. But let's go to Oakland. Oakland Raiders, right across the bay, will be hosting San Diego Chargers. And at this point, they're my San Diego Chargers, not yours, Beans. I'm taking San Diego. Rejoice.
Yeah, Beans, they're only your team
whenever
they're 2-14. Whenever they're good, they're Stephen Turner's team.
When they're preseason, I couldn't name one wide receiver on the roster, and I was predicting to win 3 games.
You couldn't even name a defender, and your boy Manti Te'o's on the team, for God's sake.
Hey.
And his girlfriend's on the team.
I disowned Manti Te'o after he embarrassed me and my family and Notre Dame franchise. I mean, I don't care about Manti at this point. He had 3 tackles last week.
I'm picking my San Diego Chargers as well. Screw you, Beans.
That's right. All right. Let's go down to the coffin. And the guy who didn't join us this week, I'm going to honor his name, the Count. I'm going to pick the Atlanta Falcons over my New York Jets. It's very difficult for me to pick the Jets to lose because I know I was high on them in the preseason. I know I probably picked them to win the AFC East. And
Kermit is going to be pissed at you.
I was giving them all kinds of praise, and Rex Ryan, Coach of the Year, and Gino. As soon as Mark Sanchez went down, then my whole entire opinion of this team changed, and I can't really pick them to win without Mark Sanchez at quarterback. I'm going to take the Counts, Atlanta Falcons.
I'm going with my MVP and Super Bowl prediction from the NFC, the Atlanta Falcons, that finally look like a playoff contender.
And we're out of games. This sucks. I need to pick more. Where's the CFL games? I want to pick CFL.
No Minnesota game this week.
High school. Where's high school? Who's Apollo play this week?
Who's Johnny Football got this week?
Is it Graves County? I'm taking Graves County, 64, Apollo 3. Mark it down. I think that was last week, actually, but whatever. Let's get out of here. I'm ready to go. I've got to go home. I got a curfew.
Moving it on now to the fantasy start-sit section of the podcast. I'm going to go ahead and get with my number 1 start. I'm going to go with Kimbrell Tompkins of my New England Patriots, apparently, because I've been all jocking them today with Tom Brady being my number 1 quarterback, and now I've got Tompkins being my number 1 start.
I'm going to move on to a segment a program where I absolutely have no idea what I'm doing for the second time. My predictions are bad. My fantasy season this year is equally as bad. But I'll tell you what, I will start.
Cecil Shorts.
Listen to this. Eddie Lacy. Write it down. How about that?
Whoa.
How about that start?
Didn't see
Eddie
that one
Lacy.
coming.
And I'll tell you why. Because I feel like the Packers are going to score some points in this game, and Eddie Lacy's going to be the grinded out guy. Who's gonna, he's going to come in there and he's going to get 70 yards and a touchdown. So I mean, as a number 2 running back, I'm going to start him because my running backs are horrible.
A team that I think is going to put up a lot of points because the Philadelphia defense is horrible. So I went with Ruben Randall. Like I said last week, we're horrible at
Ruben Randall. Weren't you just
at
crapping on this guy like a couple weeks ago?
Well, yeah, that's how bad our defense is.
Oh man,
unfortunately,
man, come on, you got at least Hakeem Nicks.
Ruben Randall
show up this week
against us. Ruben Randall could put up 15, but I mean but Beans could put up 20 against us. That's just saying how bad our defense is.
Beans is pretty good wide receiver. I saw him play a couple backyard games. I'm going to roll with Daryl Richardson versus Jacksonville because the Jacksonville Jaguars have been giving up 40 points a game. I figure there's going to be a garbage running back to come in there when they throw up the white flag and say we're just going to run the clock out. So Daryl Richardson is maybe worth a start this week, considering they didn't want to make Isaiah Pede active on the roster after I picked him up.
That was weird.
Projected at 17.
I've
already released him.
He brought a total different look to the offense, and they deactivated him. That's weird. If I could grab him in any league that I'm in, if he's available, I'd pick him up if they ever decide to play him. He looks like a playmaker.
You can pick him up in our league because I just dropped him today.
Another running back that I'm going to go with, my third and final start, is LeGarrette Blount. I've been preaching his praises all year. And
pick him up.
Once again, going with a Patriot. As you can see, I'm expecting the Patriots to stomp ass apparently this week because I'm starting every
You're riding
Patriot.
the Patriots hard, man. Jeez.
Going for it.
Woo.
Go blue.
How about that?
Michigan quarterback. Gotta latch on to something.
Yeah, I don't
Ain't
know
got
why.
nothing in Philly to cheer for.
I don't know why you'd ever bench him, but Darren Sproles versus Chicago this week. If you saw what Reggie Bush did to Chicago last week, Darren Sproles, I'm sure that Sean Payton will try to follow the same type of blueprint versus the Bears. So look for Darren Sproles to have a big game.
Moving on to sits now, and you finally pick Eddie Lacy, and I'm saying sit every Packers running back because there's 3 of them that are getting touches, and that's too many to start any.
I can't name any besides is Starks back.
Yeah, Starks and Jonathan Franklin. Jonathan Franklin had 108 yards rushing their last game.
Franklin, UCLA product. I don't know. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Whatever. I'm starting him.
Didn't take much there, ladies and gentlemen.
You know why?
Jump off that Packers bandwagon
hate the
easily.
Packers. Hey, you swayed me.
It's like sold.
No, I'm starting Eddie Lacy because I've actually picked him up.
Don't even start him. Waive him.
I've started him in a league, and I'm have to start him because it's bye week time, and a couple of my players are out. So Eddie Lacy's going to get the start for me. That's why I'm got him number 1 on my starts list.
Not anymore.
It might be a good idea to not start him. I don't know. Why listen to me at this point? Who cares? How about anybody from Jacksonville? If you got anybody on your team from Jacksonville, anybody.
Even Cecil Shorts?
Hey, Cecil Shorts dropped was you there? You were there. I was trashing Blaine Gabbert, and I was like, that poor Cecil Shorts. He's got so much talent. Out of Mount Union, he's a Division III wide receiver. The poor guy, and he's so talented. And the quarterback could just get the ball, and right as the words are coming out of my mouth, Blaine Gabbert throws him a perfect fade route in the corner of the end zone, down 44 points to the Colts, and he drops it. It's right in his hand, and he drops it.
I'm gonna go ahead with my last 2
that's
sits.
It. Bench them.
Since they're both wide receivers, 2 disappointing wide receivers. Roddy White and Larry Fitzgerald. Both of these guys are injured and not anywhere near of what they used to be.
Wow, nice names on that list. I'm gonna bench DeMarco Murray. It is Callahan runs him every other week. This would be the week to run him, except for the fact they're going to be down all game because they're playing the Broncos and they're going to have to throw to catch up. And I also benched all the Bills wide receivers, either Stevie Johnson or if you got Robert Woods, who has produced fairly well, but they're playing Cleveland, my Cleveland Browns.
Joe Hayden, lock one of them down.
Their defense is solid, and they've been locking wide receivers down since day 1 this year. So bench the Bills wide receivers if you have a chance to.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
How about
Our fantasy start and sits. And
I had no idea.
That's going to bring a close to the show once again. We've rode through another one. Going to remind you, you can download the Displaced Diehards podcast at displaceddiehards.com every Friday. Follow us on Twitter at Diehards Podcast. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/displaceddiehards. You can also download the podcast on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. And as always, you can watch the TV show Saturday, 10 p.m., Channel 72 on Time Warner Cable in Owensboro.
Yippee-ki-yay, Skeeter Dickin.
Displaced Diehards.
Displaced Diehards.
I am a Displaced Diehard.
I'm a Displaced Diehard.
We are Displaced Diehards.